Hey guys, and welcome to the FitPro Social with me, David Kyle.
And me, Ash Burley. Hello, everyone, so welcome back to the Fit Pro Social. Today, it's just going to be me and Dave chatting about all things Fit Pro and what's going on in the Fit Pro industry. But things have changed since last time we've actually talked. As most people know, as much as I work with Fit Pros, I don't have a gym or studio anymore. Last time we spoke on here, Dave was technically officially a Fit Pro and he had a gym and studio, but recently he decided to go and sell that and move into focusing, I think, really just working with Fit Pros. So I thought it'd be really good to try and talk about that process, talk about the emotional side of it. What was that like doing it? What brought you to that decision? And just like what the whole process was like. So I'm sure a lot of people on here have thought about maybe even selling their studios, selling their gyms, going through that kind of process. So yeah, I thought it'd be really cool to maybe chat about that today. It'd be a good conversation to have. So yeah, what's changed?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because it wasn't something planned. It wasn't something I actually really wanted to do either. But after speaking to a few people about where the businesses were at different stages, because they're all at different stages of their own success, it was kind of like one of them has to go. And unfortunately, that was the gym.
So you have like, I mean, obviously, you've got quite a few different businesses on. So how many businesses have you got running at the moment? Which ones are you having out there? Just for people that don't know.
So obviously with the gym, that was kind of that was the main thing really. Then we obviously got FitPro Lead Gen, which is the lead generation. We've got LeadDec then, which is the systems and automations part. And then we do have FitPro Clothing, but that's not something we actively push. That's just a real simple one for us where it's almost kind of like a drop ship. The guy that came to the gym did a clothing embroidery service, and he said, let's have a chat. So we had a quick chat. I'm going to use my list to get people to purchase a shop. That then goes to him. He fulfills the order and sends it out. So Fit for Clothing is not one of those that we actively push, but then at the same time, it is another business.
Yeah, and I guess it works quite well alongside the other stuff that you do anyway. It's a need that needs fulfilling for a lot of Fit Pros. So I guess it kind of makes sense to have that on there. So say you've been got these like three focus of the businesses. What made you decide to go from the gym, which obviously was your first, I guess, your baby, if you like? And I think that's probably what a lot of people, at least people I speak to, when they're debating about whether they should sell a gym or move on to another venue or do something else within the industry, they always have this idea that their gym is their baby in their studio. And I kind of had exactly the same process quite a few years back. And for a long time, I used to treat it as like my baby, and it felt sad having to hand it over. What was that like? So that was your first business then. So how did it feel when you was making this decision, and what really led you to make that decision to give away your firstborn, if you like, in terms of business, to focus on the others?
Yeah, so I need to correct you a tiny bit there. The gym didn't actually come first. So
Okay.
Finished university, went into a full-time job working for somebody else. And the whole 6 months I was there, this person was traveling around South America. And I was thinking, like, why am I making money for this guy who's just off gallivanting around the world? Now I've done it long enough. I can see he'd obviously worked hard to get to that position. So he was able to go away. But then at the time, I'm just thinking, why am I making money for him to pay for his holidays and stuff? So I left there, and fortunately, I'd done quite a bit of coaching for Southampton Foundation and a little bit for Southampton Academy. So I moved back to North Wales and obviously launched a football coaching business. And obviously, running a business, we all want to know how to find clients, how to sell to clients, how to grow the business and everything like that. And the football coaching business did really well. It never did well super financially in order to be able to buy a house and everything, but it did well. We were on TV, we were on in the newspapers. We had locations all across North Wales. I think we were working with like 300 clients a week or 300 kids a week at one point. So it was quite a big business. And that's how I first came across Facebook ads, understanding just how to do the real basics, how to put a quick advert out there to get people to register their interest. Nothing intense or as advanced as what we do right here, right now, what we did with the gym. But yeah, Facebook ads did actually come before the gym, if that makes sense.
All right, that's pretty cool. Which I never actually realized that. I knew you did the fitness stuff and things before. The football stuff beforehand, but I didn't realize it was to that extent that you did that kind of thing for it all, which is really weird. Because funny enough, one of my first businesses I had, I mean, it was more venture based stuff, but we used to do sports and used to work with kids, tackling social behaviours, and not really doing football, but we used to do like a climbing wall and that kind of thing. Just different kind of thing, but for our area instead. It's very, very random.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. The hard part for me to kind of talk about the football business is that everything was done in Welsh. So like all the videos, all the TV appearances, all the newspaper, all the magazine kind of features and everything, everything's in Welsh. So I've put the video up a few times to show people of where we were on TV and the channels and everything, but everyone's like banter, whatever you want to call it. Oh, I don't understand what you're saying, David. Speak English. It was all done in Welsh, so everything was done in Welsh. So you know what? I'll find the video later. I'll dig it out and I'll put it up on Facebook again, so you can kind of see what it was like. But yeah, that's how I became a Fit Pro. So the football was going great. What do we have? 4 staff. Obviously, nobody was full time. They were all part time because it was all Saturday and Sunday morning stuff. But just still living with your parents, you know what I mean? Or actually, I was living with my grandparents, and I just didn't have the money to be able to move out, rent a house, never mind being able to buy a house. Although like 15 years on, I still don't own a house. I still just rent. But yeah, that's why I did this qualification. I became a Fit Pro. So obviously I went to university and studied fitness and stuff. And again, another kind of a joke thing was I actually studied football studies, which I was like, oh, I never knew there was such a course. But yeah, I studied football studies at university. So I had my strength and conditioning qualifications, had all my football qualifications, but I never actually had a PT qualification because that wasn't something they did. So qualified as a PT, started doing one-to-one clients in North Wales. It was going okay. And then, like you say, you got the boot camp, and you'd wake up at 5:30, go down to the boot camp at 6 o'clock in the morning, pouring down. No one turns up after you've laid everything out. You've got to pack it all away, soaking wet, go home, miserable, hating life and everything. But at that point, Holly'd kind of had enough of North Wales. She wanted to move back home. So we folded the football business, cancelled the PT stuff, and that's where we moved down to Southampton. That's really how my fitness business stage of my life kind of started, when we moved to Southampton fully. Yeah.
All right, there you go. So when so you start building that business, you start building your studio up from there. And obviously out of that came FitPro Lead Gen, and obviously now LeadDec. So obviously at some point during that time, there was that shift, that change where you realized, as you mentioned, you probably didn't want to, but you had to go and pick something.
Yeah.
Was this more just to do with, okay, you feel that you're being stretched a bit too thin, you need to put your effort into a certain amount of stuff? Like what was the biggest driving force? Because if you didn't want to sell this in the first place, there obviously must have been something really pushing you forward to make that decision.
Being 100% honest, I didn't really have the final say. It was down to Holly and my mentor. They were the ones that said, Dave, come on, you actually need to sell it or bin it, or you need to stop. So the gym in Cardiff had been going about 2 years now. I hadn't really touched it. I hadn't really sat down and done any proper marketing. I hadn't really sat down with the staff and done any proper coaching with them. It just ticked along, and we were always at 120, 130 clients every month. Some months it would drop down to close to 100. Sometimes we would get to 150, but we were always around that 120, 130 mark. But the big issue was, and this is kind of one of the frustrations for Holly, was if a coach was ill, I was always the backup, which meant we couldn't really go away as often as maybe we would want to. If I was doing like this guest interview like right now, and the coach phoned up and said, Dave, I'm ill, it's 10 p.m. at night, I'm like, no worries, I'm coming down, I'll be there tomorrow morning. And then, like you say, this interview doesn't happen because I'm at the gym now coaching. So it was all those kind of not being able to do the things that we wanted to do, and that time I would have to take away from FitPro and LeadDec to be able to get the gym to a real place where I could not be in it at all. was just too much of an ask right now because of how FitPro and LeadDec have actually, of how that is progressing. Yeah.
I find it quite interesting. Actually, there's a couple of things that I think is quite maybe important key bits to pick out from there that maybe people listening would find quite interesting. I think the first one I want to talk about is you mentioned they're achieving the things that you want to achieve, like, for example, being able to have a bit more freedom to go and do the things you want to do. For me personally, I've not always, but as I got a bit older, a bit more experienced, I kind of realized that any business I have is a tool to help me achieve the things that I want to achieve. And that really only came about when I got rid of my very, very first business. Similar to kind of you, like there's certain things that happen. This is the venture one. And eventually we end up selling it to one of the guys who actually worked for us. And during that point, it wasn't really until I realized that I can't do this and achieve this, because the two things just didn't match up at all. And it was a hard decision to make, but that's literally what drove that decision for us to go and do it. Do you think that a lot of people that get into business, do you think you always start with that? I know for me, I didn't start with that opinion at all. I don't know why I actually started my own business, to be honest with you, in the first place. But like as I got older, more experienced, I started realizing that's what businesses are for, they're to help give me what I want to, get me what I want to achieve. Do you find that was something you knew when you first started the gym, first started in business, or was that something that became apparent over time, or was it something that really your mentor and Holly actually made you realize at some point?
It's a strange one, because like obviously when I was working in the office job, I had no particular wonder skill that I could start a business with. It was more of a case of seeing the owner traveling around, and my mindset at that moment in time was, I'm working to pay for him to enjoy this time away. Whereas you see other people, they love health and fitness, like they've always gone to the gym, they were like top of the class at sports, at school and everything. And it was a real easy progress to move into the fitness industry. Others, like if I knew what I knew now and I just knew Facebook ads inside out, again, it's an easy way to set up and do the things that you actually love. So there's a few different ways of being able to do this that works, or reasons why people obviously start a business. One, frustration. Two, like time and money. Three, they actually want to do something that they're actually super passionate about and they can't do it in the place that they're currently at. So yeah, I think there's three key reasons why people start a business. And over the length of time now, for being, let's call it self-employed, I think I've gone through all those three stages. Hey, it's going to pause it there for literally 2 seconds. If you're loving this week's episode, please let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. The more people we can get subscribing, the bigger guests we can get, and the more people we can help with the content being shared. Anyway, let's dive back into today's episode.
I think everyone seems to. When you actually mention those three stages, I can actually probably pick the point in time where each of those became a priority. I think there's always a bit of each in there somewhere, but I think over time one becomes more of a priority than the other, and eventually kind of work out what's important to you and start building things around that.
Because I can jump in it. One, I definitely notice, and I'm not at that position yet, and you're not in that position yet, but what I do notice is business owners' mindsets changed a lot when they have children.
Yeah. I would say that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I don't know how many fitness business owners, or even just business owners in general, I've seen a big change in how they work and how they progress and how everything works. Unfortunately, some don't last once they have kids. They just can't do both. And then you see others who really do streamline everything, make everything so much more efficient to be able to, obviously they've got kids now, so they have no choice to get rid of that. But in order to keep the kids, or in order to have the life with the kids that they want and make the business work, they've had to change a lot to be efficient. So yeah, I definitely see that. Maybe that could be the fourth one.
Before, I'll tell you what, I bet that'd be quite an interesting thing. We should have to get a guest on. I'll try and find one of the fit pros that we know, try and bring them on who's maybe got kids or been for that transition of having a business without kids to having kids. It'd be cool to maybe bring someone on, maybe discuss that. And talk about that in more detail, because like you say, it's not a position I'm in, it's not a position that you're in. It'll be quite interesting to have that conversation with somebody.
But I don't know, you know, when we take our dogs for a walk and stuff, maybe we
Yeah,
can
it's the
pass
same,
that.
isn't it? Yeah, I've got to find an hours to take Charlie out.
We got everyone listening to this going, no, it's not the same. It's not the same. It's completely
Yeah, was just unsubscribing now. Can't compare kids to dogs. I'll tell you what, I wouldn't mind quickly talk on as well. You mentioned there about Holly and your mentor having basically kind of driving that decision to make that sale. How much of an impact does outside support have on the business in general? Like, for example, you mentioned you got not just the mentor side of it, but for someone like Holly, like, for example, I have Sarah, who's a big part of the business, and she gives me this outside perspective sometimes. We purposely, apart from the account side of stuff and a few other bits and bobs, we purposely keep Sarah out of some of the everyday stuff, and just to help have a different perspective. And that really helps from our side of it. Does Holly have that kind of impact on your business, or does your mentor have an impact on your business, and how much do they really decide on where you take things?
It's an interesting one. Now, I don't know if Holly's arrived at the office or not. If she is, she'll be next door and she's listening keenly to what we're going to talk about now.
I just mentioned her name.
And it's not something I really probably want to admit to her, but I do think because we have two different styles of, what would you call it? I'm a let's go, 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 go. And she's a no, 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 no.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of works really well. So when I come up with a crazy idea, she'll kind of, if she thinks like it's the most ridiculous thing ever, she'll like, no, no, no. And then I've got to fight it. And then it usually ends up being a no. If she can see the rationale and see the passion behind it, and she can see almost like I'm arguing my case to her, then the no's won't be as much, and we can make these things happen, if that makes sense. So I think it is good to be able to bounce ideas off, whether you're just bouncing ideas off, but also you can actually listen to people as well. And again, another thing Holly would always argue about would be, if my mentor, or even if you turn around to me and say, Dave, you know what would be a good idea for the business is X. And I say to Holly, oh, Holly, you know, Ash just said we should do this. And she'd be like, I did tell you that a month ago. Why you never listen to me? And you probably have that the same with Sarah.
Yeah, exactly the same. Yeah, that's what I'm laughing.
Listen to what they say, but they kind of do have the right ideas, but you just don't, I don't know, you don't accept what they have to say sometimes.
Do you think that's because, like, in our two cases, if anyone doesn't know, like, from Holly's relationship and Sarah's relationship, we keep talking about Holly and Sarah, people might not know. So they're our partners. So, like, Sarah's my wife and Holly's Dave's partners. So, like, we're both working with our partners in the business as well, which makes for an interesting dynamic sometimes. Do you think
we should do an episode on it, you know, on working with your partner, with your wife? Like, my whole entire being self-employed life has been with Holly, literally either more or less completely in it or 50% in it, if that makes sense. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That'll be good. I think that'd be an interesting thing to talk about and chat about. We'll have to bring them on. We can talk about it and get both sides of it, because there's obviously our side and probably their side of it as well.
We have a petition wall though as we talk, so we can't get like
some security in the background just in case. No, that's cool, man. I mean, for me, it makes quite a big difference. I mean, it's very, very similar. Very, very similar. It's quite uncanny, actually, how Sarah will sometimes say something else. I will always take it on board, and then I think, oh, I can't do this or can't do that, and then eventually someone else would, like you say, would suggest it to us.
Like, wow, it's a great idea. Why has no one said that to me before? And she's like, well, I did tell you like 10 minutes ago or something. Yeah.
Just sat there just thinking, yeah, I've been telling you that for a while now. I'm like, okay, fair enough then. we'll let you off on that one. Maybe there's a lesson in there somewhere. Maybe there's definitely a lesson in there somewhere. So you obviously made that decision to go and sell that gym. What was that process like for anyone here that's listening and they're thinking about actually making the sale, selling their gym, or maybe looking at trying to focus on a different area of their business? Which, I mean, we see that quite a lot from what we do within our business. A lot of people will go online. Sometimes they get to the point where they realize they can get a bit more freedom, or maybe their online side is done well. I mean, it's like not the easiest thing to do. I think it's much harder to do online stuff than what it's to do in person.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Like, yeah, it's crazy with the difference and why people think it's a bit different. But yeah, but some of them do really, really well to the point where it replaces their income that they make, but also maybe gives them a bit more time freedom. So they think about selling the gyms. Sometimes they talk to us about that. I mean, what was that process like? How did you go about that process?
Okay, so not kind of gloating about it or anything, but like I said, like 10 minutes ago, we were at 120, 130 members. Yeah. So for some gym owners, that's like double, triple, quadruple the number of members that they've got. We had 2 full-time staff and everything. The finances were okay. They weren't great. Obviously, when you start adding VAT and tax and everything, we're just in profit every single month. So it wasn't like fantastic. So the sale of the business was actually extremely straightforward, because when we spoke to, I didn't post anything about it. I didn't really. We were actually approached. We were approached and someone said, can I learn more? And when after we approached, I reached out to 2 other people who I knew potentially would be interested as well. And it was a funny one, because the saying goes, if something seems too good to be true, then usually it is too good. And that was the feedback we were getting. It was like, why do you want to sell it? To then convince them that I'm selling it simply because I just don't have the time to really make this work. And they were like, oh, so have you got massive debt or something, or the coach is a nightmare, or are you lying about the number of clients you've got and everything? It's like, no, you can see it all. So selling FitHub 30 was actually really straightforward, because once they saw the numbers and everything I said was the truth, it was just an easy one for them to go with. The hard part then was for us to kind of come up with the numbers that we wanted from it. Now, I'm going to let a lot of people down here now and say, if you've read articles or you've spoken to mentors and they're like, yeah, you just 3.5 times the profit you've made every single year, that's how much you should be commanding. Never in a million years are you going to get anything near that. And I know some other gym owners who have sold businesses in excellent condition and they've got nothing near what they want. So it was a case of figuring out how much we wanted and then working everything out. So we had this number in our mind, and it came down to 3 things. You had the assets, so the equipment, the unit, the setup, everything like that. So that would be classed as the assets. You then had something called, what was it now? Oh, it was like gift. Oh, I can't think what the extra. Holly would know the exact term. It was. Hey, just going to pause it there really quickly. If you know any guests that would love to feature, or if you yourself would like to feature on one of these episodes, do let us know by reaching out or letting us know in the comments. Anyway, let's get back into the episode. It might come back to me basically, but that basically was paying for the client base, the database, and Stripe. So I can't think of the word. It was like a friendly gift, or there was
the in-kind.
Yeah. So
I don't know if that's what it's called, but I think I know what you mean, because you can assign it in-kind value, can't you?
Yeah,
it's what you put into it, basically, personally, without not necessarily monetary value.
Current client base, Stripe, and the database.
Yeah.
And then the final one was, did we want any extra on top of all that as well? Because obviously, again, selling 3.5 times your profit for the year is, that's one way of working it out. But if they buy the business off you and you sell it for 200K, and then they move in and all the clients leave, then that business is now only worth whatever the assets, the gym equipment is actually worth, because they're going to have to finance to find the clients and everything again, all that stuff. And this is what we see a lot of times when people that sell their gyms to other people. They're not selling the gym, they're selling them. These people come to your studio or gym because of you. And if you're not there, or your ethos and your beliefs, your style of training, everything that you created isn't still there, then they're going to start to disappear, the clients, because it's not the same. So yeah, those were the 3 things. Assets, you've got, there was a proper name, it will come to me. We'll put it in show notes when I remind it, but it was like, I don't know. And then what we wanted. So we had this number, and again, we weren't looking to make loads of money. We just wanted to kind of just sell it on. And he was happy with that, and it all went through. Looking back, there's one thing that we should have definitely done, which we didn't do. and that was get a deposit. So like everything was agreed. We signed the paperwork, and it was a oh, my mind gone blank for all the terms. We weren't allowed to tell anybody basically until the date agreed.
Like a non-disclosure type thing.
A non-disclosure. So we weren't allowed to tell the clients, we weren't allowed to tell anybody that it was happening. And that's totally fine. And then it came to having to tell the clients, which was 2 weeks before the sale happened. And we agreed on 2 weeks because then it wasn't enough time for everybody to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And it was enough time for him to be able to talk to them, convince them that the move is a good thing and all this was happening. So we weren't allowed to tell anybody. So when we got to that 2 week point, because we didn't have a deposit and the contractors and everything, if he would have pulled out and all the clients would have left after we told them, then we could have been in a big predicament, because now we have no client base, gym sale that fell through and everything. So a deposit should have been what we went for. And then the final part of the whole term itself was what they wanted to make it work for them financially. Was they paid half up front, and then they're going to pay the other half monthly over the next year. So it worked out financially better for them, which again we were totally fine about. Yeah,
that's quite an interesting way of doing it. When my interesting, my parents have it's completely different industry, at all. And you talk about the 3.5 times, and even in that, like their industry is something you could kind of have that approach as a general ballpark figure in terms of what you do, because with those kind of industries, what you effectively sell is you look at the balance sheet, so like your assets and everything else like that. You look at the profits that you're making, the GP on everything you sell, and then you start looking at the SOPs and stuff you've got basically. So like, can you basically take that, and if you was to change ownership, does it have any effect on anything else? And those industries doesn't make a difference in reality, because you're just changing ownership.
And I think just to make it a bit more clear for everybody, if you're selling steel or workbenches or your B&Q basically, you can command higher prices and different things to work out what it's worth, because they're not coming to the business because of you. They're just coming here to buy tools or benches or whatever it might be. Whereas a salon, anything that's kind of like real personal to them, that's where it gets a lot harder, because they come to that business either because they've supported you for a long time, or they like the work you do because you do it in such a unique way, which makes coming up with a valuation a little bit trickier. But then at the same time, obviously, if you need to get rid of it, you can accept lower prices, but you're in control of this sale. And the final bit on this before Ash jumps in again, if someone comes to you to want to buy, you're always going to get more rather than you going to somebody to sell. Because if you're going to them to sell, they know I can beat them down a bit more because they're wanting to sell. Whereas if someone comes to you, like if someone came to Ash and said, Ash, you know what, can I buy PT and D and Stinger? You have no interest in selling. So maybe you can then command a much higher price because you don't really want to sell, but someone's coming to you to buy.
Yeah, it definitely would have to give you the benefit, wouldn't it? Like it'd have to be really worth your time doing it, which would like to push the value up more. But I'll say the other way around. It's not like on the back foot as such, but it is different, isn't it? It puts the negotiating power in their hands, where if they come to you, the negotiating power is in your hands. I think that's the key difference with that kind of thing. That's awesome. I appreciate you actually sharing all that with us. I know it's been a lot of just kind of me talking at you and asking you questions and chatting about that, but I just thought it'd be an interesting story to go through. A lot of people know you for all the different businesses and stuff that you do. And I know part of the process when you first announced to everybody that you was going to sell the gym, and they could tell from the way you was coming across, it was quite I'd say an emotional thing, maybe a worrying thing, a little bit nervous possibly about actually announcing this to everybody, not just your clients, but I mean like the FitPro lead gen clients and that community and the FitPro community. Like it was a big part of it. And I think it's nice to just explore that process you kind of went through, the reasons behind it all, and just the process you went through for anyone else that's actually interested in doing this. There's a bit more of a realistic take on what to expect and what kind of things to go through. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing all that with us today.
The two emotional things came from two different sides. So selling the gym wasn't as much of I'm selling my thing. Yeah, it was a little bit of that, but I felt like I was letting the clients down, and they came to us for a specific reason. We'd created a community. We'd sold them a specific way of doing things. That was kind of like our way of doing things, and that's why they came to us. So I did feel when I was selling and telling them, it was quite emotional. It was difficult because I felt like I'd let them down. Now, on the flip side, telling obviously the fitness industry as a whole, that was a harder one to actually announce. So like you say, the post, I wrote in the post, the gym had been sold over a month, but I was just too scared to tell the world about it for judgment, really. You know what I mean? Like, everybody knew I owned a gym. Everything that we did was evolved around the gym. Do these ads work? We'll test it on the gym. Does this website work? We'll test it on the gym. Does this sales script work? We'll test it on the gym. And I relayed that and I told the world about it. So everybody knew I owned a gym. So something like just coming out, revealing to the world, I've sold my gym. In my mind, I thought people are just going to think, oh, he's another failed business owner, a failure. I just want to, I mean, one of these people who failed at the gym, but he now thinks that he can talk about what he should have done in the gym to make it happen. And that's what was going on in my mind. But then because I've been doing this for such a long time and I've shared the ins and outs and everything, it didn't go anything like that. If anything, people was like, oh, I really appreciate you being so honest and open about this. And like, since then, I've obviously shared way more stories about just what I used to do before, but obviously now saying when I had the gym rather than this is what I'm doing in the gym. So the stories and the tips and advice and everything continues. But I just had in my mind that everyone was going to think I was a failure. But technically, I've now done something that most people, like when we started business, like probably you and lots of people are the same. They start a business and that's it. I'm going to start a business. I'm going to have some more time, have a bit more money, have more freedom, kind of command the wages I want. And that's all you thought. You get into business, run a business, yeah, nice and easy. But there's actually 3 stages to actually running a business. You've got the start, so starting it all up, getting it moving. Then you've got the maintenance and actually getting the business to work the way you want it to do. And then the last one, which I never see this talked about, is the exit. Like, what is the plan for that business? What is the way out? There doesn't have to be a way out. You could just be the coach in that fitness business the whole time. But a lot of us want to get into self-employed life. I don't really like using the word entrepreneurship. Self-employed life, because we want a different way of living our life. So the exit is either sell or you build a business that can operate without you, and that's the exit there. And I don't think that part is talked about enough, of exiting a business. And that's what we did. We sold and exited that stage of my FitPro career.
Yeah.
They won't come back.
Business journey. We'll call it your business journey for it all. I think that's such an important thing. I mean, it's one of the things we talk about, as I mentioned earlier, we're close to getting this new version of this course done, which is for the online personal training certification. And there's actually a section in there, a whole first section is all about business. And because whichever way you look at it, you still have to, especially when you go online, it is your own business, whichever way you look at it, it's a different approach to take. And there's a part in there where we actually do talk about that. We talk about really the goals and the needs of your business and what your end goal is this and how you're going to get towards that. And that everything you do now eventually should start to lead towards that. Because if you have an idea what you want, it's much easier to start building this, like I said, this tool, if you like, because that's in reality what a business is. It's a tool to get you what you want, basically, whether it's that to feed your passion, to help the people you want to help, to give you freedom or time or money or whatever it is. Either way, it's a tool to go and do that. And I think you're right, it's not talked about enough. And it's the reality of what any kind of business is, because at some point you're going to have to exit that business. You either do it by choice or life does it for you, but either way you're exiting that business at some point. So you have to decide whether you want to do that on your terms or other terms. So it's I think it's a really important thing that does need to be talked about more, especially in this industry, because you do talk about a lot of other industries, like in other industries that are out there. Again, I refer back to the one my family owns, like talked about all the time. It's talked about because it's a big part of it. The exit strategy is a huge part of it. So yeah, I think you're right. It's not talked about enough in this industry, and it really should be something that's brought up. Awesome. And again, thanks for sharing all that. There's a lot of, like I say, dug a little bit deep into that whole process and kind of what you went through. And few bits and bobs on there. So yeah, I appreciate you being open about that.
That's what this podcast is all about. The FitPro Social is all about bringing people on, or us sharing what works and not being scared to tell you the things that don't work either. So if you are listening today and you'd love to come on and like obviously share your stories with me and Ash, whether it's in the fitness industry or whether it's life or just anything related to the fitness industry, then definitely come on and have a chat. And if you're happy to be super honest, then we will unravel you. We will ask the right questions to open you up and get the answers that we need. Yeah.
Exactly what we want. Exactly what we want. The other thing I want to mention as well, that we are going to be doing more live events for the FitPro Social over this next year. We'll be posting more about those on the website as well over the coming months. And like all these events at the moment, we're going to try and do them as free as we can. That's the idea. So again, thank you very much for joining us this week. And we'll see you all at the next one. Cheers, everybody.
Enjoy, guys. Speak to you soon.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the FitPro Social. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes.